So, for this first week, we are going to jump right into chapter 1, which is entitled Mapping Global Frontiers to 1590. So, I did leave out some readings about Native Americans because I want to touch pretty heavily on those in this video instead of having you read what's in the textbook. So, So, what I want you to keep in mind, like most history books that we have, it's really important to ask this question when you're reading a textbook, even the one that I have assigned for you. Who writes history and whose stories have been left out? For a long time, U.S. history was written primarily from a European perspective. And what that means is we, a lot of times, will leave out the Native American voice over and over and over. Even in 2026, we still leave out the Native American voice. We've gotten better about including women's voices, African American voices, any of our Spanish speaking voices, so Hispanic, Latino, Mexicana, Latinx, like those. We have gotten better about that, but we always tend to leave out the Native American voice. And that is for a couple of reasons. And I want to talk about that really quickly. So really, like, we're going to examine some indigenous societies because they'll help us understand like what was going on. A lot of times we don't think of America as being civilized. And if you're white or, of like European descent, that's what a lot of us have been taught over and over. But there were civilizations here. There were lots of civilizations here, even more than what is shown on this map here. The reason that Native American voices are often left out of history is because of how they tell history. They don't write history down. Native American indigenous histories are typically oral histories. That is an oral tradition. So a lot of their stories are passed down orally, so like over time, and these stories can change over time, but there is some historical fact mixed in with these stories. That is often left out. And what you'll notice, even the primary sources that I use in this course that are from or supposedly the Native American voice, a lot of times those are translated by white Europeans. And so they leave a lot of context out. They leave a lot of that meaning out when they are writing on behalf of Native Americans because Native Americans, again, did not have written languages. But I do want you to look at this map because this is really important in knowing there were millions of people prior to European contact living in North and South America. So what you'll notice, this should be like familiar for you, right? Like this is the Anasazi or the Pueblo. We also have the Holcomb. And over here, you've got like Serpent Mound, Cahokia. These are places upon like European contact. We're still sort of kind of there. They were in decline. And then by the time we do have Europeans coming all the way over and exploring this area, they are pretty much gone. So this is all that we have to tell these stories really are the oral traditions where we still have presence in these areas, but then also like archaeological finds that we have for these areas. One thing I do want to point out is a lot of times we don't think of North America as having pyramids because outside of like the Mexican pyramids, the step pyramids, we don't have pyramids in what is present day United States. What we have are mounds, and mounds serve the same purpose as pyramids did. So we have a lot more earthworks. We just don't have the structural significant one like the pyramid. And so we have these earthworks that are significant to Native American history. So that's really important. And then also, you want to tell me that this isn't some type of civilization, that this is not advanced? I mean, this is pretty stinking awesome, right? So we know that there are civilizations that were on the rise. And then around like 1300, 1400, they go into decline because of drought, because of famine, because of like just natural things that happen. And that's why a lot of European writers, a lot of white perspectives, like, oh, there were no civilizations here. Yes, there were. We have archaeological evidence that they were here and that they were thriving for millennia before we have Europeans come in. So this is pretty cool that we still have this evidence there. But we do have like distinct cultures that were created by these Native American people. Really, the ones that we tend to focus on, though, are those large civilizations like the Maya or the Aztec, the Maya, and the Incan, because those were still pretty significant civilizations on the rise by the time we do have the Spanish coming and making contact with these individuals. Again, here's just some more reason about why Native Americans are so often overlooked, and we're trying to rectify that. Hopefully, slowly but surely we are, and you'll notice more Native American perspective brought into things. European exploration and global expansion. I just want to touch base on that really quickly. We have the Spanish that came here first, and there's reasons why Spain was able to come here first. They had gone through the Iberian Peninsula and had reconquered it, and they were trying to expand their empire and trying to look for ways to get to the Asian market. So this is the only place where Christopher Columbus landed. He never set foot on mainland, North or South America. He only visited the Caribbean. But from him, after him, we have a lot of different explorers like De Vaca, Cortez. Others are going to come in, and you can see where they really do explore along the Gulf Coast here into South, like what will become the southern United States, pretty extensively through Mexico, the coastline, and look how far up they go along the coastline, almost in like, well, it is into modern day Canada, but especially here in the Southwest, a very significant influence and hold on the Southwest. Some other things that happened that were not necessarily bad things, some were good, is what's called the Columbian Exchange. And this is the transfer of flora, fauna, those types of things, but also different diseases coming from the old world into the new world and vice versa. So not always a bad thing. We do have like a lot of diseases that's going to decimate a lot of the population, the indigenous population, because they just didn't have the immune system built up to it. Also, I want you to look at this map. So this map came out, I believe, in like 1590. And like this is like, you can tell like Africa's been very well explored. So has Europe, Asia, pretty good exploration of Asia, especially like the Indies. But look at South America. You have a little bit of exploration, not a whole lot of deep exploration into North America. So that's really the known world at the time. But we know that the world is round. We know that there's a lot more to it. We just haven't quite gone inland over here just yet. But we do have Spain creating some of the first major empires, extending their empires into North America. But then over time, we don't talk about Spain. Spain kind of goes by the wayside, and there's this thing called the Black Legend, and that's where Spain really got a bad reputation for how they treated Native Americans. Yes, they were horrible. I mean, Christopher Columbus came, committed genocide, like wiped out an entire tribe of indigenous people on an island, and we skip over that all the time. Other Spaniards that came in, they do try to enslave indigenous peoples. They are wiped out by diseases or they're wiped out by warfare. So we do have like a lot of the population dying off. But this idea of the Black Legend and them being just even worse than the English and then the French and the Dutch, that is propaganda that was spurred by the French and the English. The French and the English were just as bad as the Spanish. The Spanish just got a really, really bad rap because they weren't the ones making up the rumors first. They do try to counteract those rumors, and they do try to be more aligned more with the Catholic Church when you have the Counter-Reformation happening. But it was already out there. They already had a bad name to themselves. So as you were doing the learning curve, and let me get over there really quickly so that you can look at it, but as you were doing the learning curve and reading through, you're only responsible for reading 3 sections of chapter 1, not all 4. So keep in mind the learning curve is the chapter quiz, right? So you do the readings and then you take the quiz over those readings. You'll notice Native peoples in the Americas, I left that out because they don't explain much more than I just told you. So you're not responsible for anything from that part of the chapter. You are responsible for Europe expands its reach, worlds collide, and Europeans make claims to North America. You can go back and read this section in the ebook if you want to. It's available, like the entire book is available for you. So if you do want to know what do the authors say about Native Americans, feel free to go back and read it, but you're not responsible for it on any of the quizzes or on the exam that is due. There's also going to be a short crash course video that goes over everything, and it goes a little bit more into depth about the Black legend that I just mentioned. But feel free to watch that if you want to. It's not a requirement. There are no questions over the crash course video, just questions over this video. Once you finish watching this video and taking the lecture quiz, you will move on and do the other assignments that are due for chapter 1. There is the chapter quiz, the learning curve, which is what I'm showing you the topics here. You'll also have a map quiz, and then I believe you have a primary source. I was right, you do have a primary source, the reading and the quiz. You can all find that in the overview of the chapter that I was just going over. So once you read through all of this, if you go down to the bottom, all the links that you need for the assignments this chapter are right here for you. If you do have any questions, feel free to message me in inbox. Have a great first week.